lovers murdered near Florence in the sun-drenched hills surrounding Florence, Italy. A shadow began to creep across the landscape in 1968. It was a time of societal upheaval, of free love and experimentation. But beneath the surface of this burgeoning liberation lurked a primal darkness. The first victims were Barbara Loxley and her lover, Antonio Lobianco, found shot dead in their car in Signa. The crime was brutal, seemingly random, a momentary transgression in a nation slowly shaking off the shackles of its conservative past. Locals whispered of jealous husbands and mafia vendettas, simple explanations for a simple crime. But the seeds of something far more sinister had been sown, and the fertile Italian soil would soon be watered with more blood. A strange detail emerged from the initial investigation. Barbara Loxley's young son, Natalino, had been asleep in the back seat, miraculously unharmed. Had the killer known he was there, or was it a chilling oversight that would haunt the investigation for decades to come? The case went cold, filed away as another unsolved crime in a nation grappling with political turmoil and economic uncertainty. The murder of Lox and Lobianco faded from the headlines, becoming a grim local legend, a cautionary tale whispered among young lovers seeking secluded spots in the rolling hills. Then, in 1974, almost 6 years later, another couple met a similar fate in Vinci. Pasquale Gentlecore and his girlfriend, Stefania Pettini, were found dead, shot in their car. But this time, there was a horrifying difference. Stefania Pettini had been stabbed repeatedly, and her pubic area mutilated. This was no longer a crime of passion. It was something far more disturbing, far more deliberate. The whispers turned to screams as the realization dawned. A monster was stalking the hills of Florence. The investigation intensified, hampered by the jurisdictional boundaries between different police forces and the cultural norms of a society reluctant to openly discuss sexual violence. Initial leads focused on known sex offenders and local deviants. The media dubbed the killer Il Mostro di Firenze, the monster of Florence. Fear gripped the region. Couples avoided secluded areas, and the once romantic Tuscan countryside became a landscape of terror. Psychologists were consulted, attempting to create a profile of the killer. Was he a sexually frustrated loner, a religious fanatic, or something even more twisted? The lack of a clear motive baffled investigators. Robbery was ruled out. Revenge seemed unlikely given the victim's apparent lack of connection. The only common thread was that they were lovers seeking privacy under the Tuscan moon. As the body count rose, so did the pressure on the authorities. In 1981, 2 German tourists, Hugh Rush and Horst Mayer, were murdered in Scandixa. Again, the female victim, Jutta Menek, was subjected to horrific mutilation. This time, however, the killer left behind a clue. A fragment of a letter addressed to a German individual. This small piece of evidence ignited a flurry of international cooperation, but ultimately led nowhere. The fragment was too small to be traced. The letter's recipient remained unknown. The murders became increasingly brazen, the killer seemingly taunting the authorities with each new crime. The mutilations became more elaborate, more ritualistic, suggesting a growing obsession, a descent into madness. The investigation took a bizarre turn when attention focused on a local farmer named Pietro Paxiani. Paxiani had a history of violence, including a conviction for murdering his wife's lover years earlier. He was a known womanizer and had a reputation for being a crude and volatile man. The investigators believed that Paxiani's past, coupled with his proximity to several of the crime scenes, made him a prime suspect. He became the focus of an intense investigation, his every move scrutinized, his past dredged up and dissected. For a time, it seemed the monster of Florence had finally been unmasked. The media frenzy surrounding Paxiani's arrest was immense. The public, desperate for closure, was eager to believe he was the killer. Paxiani was put on trial in 1994. The prosecution presented a circumstantial case, relying heavily on forensic evidence and witness testimony that placed him near the crime scenes. They argued that his history of violence and his misogynistic tendencies made him a likely candidate for the gruesome murders. However, the defense argued that the evidence was weak and circumstantial, and that Paxiani was being made a scapegoat for a crime that had baffled investigators for years. The trial became a media circus, a spectacle of gruesome details and conflicting narratives. The courtroom was packed with reporters, onlookers, and the families of the victims, all seeking answers and justice. The trial took an unexpected turn when a series of anonymous letters surfaced, seemingly written by the killer himself. These letters contained cryptic messages, taunting the authorities and boasting about the murders. The letters were analyzed by handwriting experts, who concluded that they were not written by Paxiani. This revelation cast doubt on the prosecution's case and raised the possibility that the real monster of Florence was still at large. The anonymous letters became a crucial piece of evidence, a chilling reminder that the investigation was far from over. They added another layer of mystery to an already complex and disturbing case. Despite the doubts raised by the anonymous letters, Paxiani was convicted in 1994 of 7 of the 8 double murders and sentenced to life in prison. The verdict was met with mixed reactions. Some believed that justice had finally been served, while others remained convinced that Paxiani was innocent, or at best, a participant in a larger conspiracy. The families of the victims were divided, some finding solace in the conviction, others feeling that the real killer was still out there, unpunished. The conviction of Paxiani did little to quell the unease that had gripped the region for decades. The monster of Florence had cast a long shadow, and even with Paxiani behind bars, the darkness lingered. However, the story didn't end there. In 1996, Paxiani's conviction was overturned on appeal due to procedural errors and inconsistencies in the evidence. A retrial was ordered, but before it could take place, Paxiani died of a heart attack in 1998. His death only deepened the mystery surrounding the case. Had justice been denied, or was Paxiani's death a convenient end to a messy and inconclusive investigation? The questions remained unanswered, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. With Paxiani gone, the investigation turned to his alleged accomplices, known as I Compagni di Marand, the Snack-Time Buddies. 2 men, Mario Vanni and Giancarlo Lotti, were implicated in the murders based on witness testimony and circumstantial evidence. Vanni was convicted of participating in several of the murders, while Lotti was also implicated, but died before he could be brought to trial. Snack-Time Buddies theory suggested that Paxiani was the ringleader, Vanny and Lottie were his accomplices, carrying out the gruesome acts under his direction. This theory provided a possible explanation for the inconsistencies in the evidence and the lack of a clear motive. It painted a picture of a group of depraved individuals, driven by a perverse lust for violence and a desire to control and dominate women. The convictions of Vanny and the implication of Lottie seemed to close the book on the monster of Florence case. But doubts persisted. Many believed that the snack time buddies were simply scapegoats, and that the real mastermind behind the murders was still at large, protected by powerful forces. Some theorized that the murders were part of a satanic cult, or that they were linked to illegal organ trafficking. Others believed that the true motive was sexual gratification, and that the killer was a highly intelligent and sophisticated individual who had managed to evade capture for decades. Despite the convictions and the countless hours of investigation, the true identity and motive of the monster of Florence remain shrouded in mystery. The case is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic settings. It is a story of fear, obsession, and the enduring power of evil. The legacy of the monster of Florence continues to haunt the Tuscan countryside, a stain on the region's history that will never be fully erased. The murders exposed deep-seated cultural attitudes towards women and sexuality in Italy, highlighting the societal norms that may have contributed to the killer's ability to operate undetected for so long. The reluctance to openly discuss sexual violence, the tendency to blame the victims, and the lack of resources for investigating such crimes all played a role in the case's prolonged and frustrating course. The monster of Florence became a symbol of the unresolved tensions and contradictions within Italian society, a reflection of the dark side of a nation struggling to modernize and break free from its conservative past. In the end, the monster of Florence may never be definitively identified. The case remains open, a chilling reminder of the unsolved mysteries that continue to haunt our world. The fertile hills of Florence, once a symbol of beauty and romance, are forever tainted by the shadow of the monster, a testament to the enduring power of evil and the fragility of innocence. The case serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even in the most picturesque settings, darkness can lurk, waiting to strike. Perhaps the most chilling irony of the monster of Florence case is that it became a macabre form of tourism, drawing thrill-seekers and true crime enthusiasts to the region in search of the locations where the murders took place. The very landscape that was once terrorized by the killer has now become a source of morbid fascination, a testament to humanity's dark curiosity and the enduring allure of the macabre. The monster of Florence, in a twisted way, has become a part of the cultural landscape, a dark stain on the region's history that continues to captivate and disturb.